Hello, everyone. Russell Wright from superintelligent.ai, and this is a very weird video because Daryl and I have been messing around laughing our asses off for the last couple of minutes. He's got a background of trees, and on my end of Skype, I turned on togetherness mode, is what they call it. And it looks like we're sitting in the woods together, sort of, or else on a really bad green screen. But at least around me, because I'm sitting in my RV, and so it's not doing as good a job for me, but that's okay. We want to get you the information, and Daryl and I always like to screw around. It's fun. So he's not really sitting right next to me. We're completely across the entire country. He's in Canada. I'm in the U.S. I want to introduce you to Daryl Osborne. For those of you who don't know, Daryl is a very, very dear friend of myself and my family. Kaylin and I love him and his wife and family. Daryl hung out with me and Jimmy for hours on end, developing technology early on, about I'd say 10 years ago, 7 years ago. We ran a course called Entity Elevation that went for almost 2 years. Entity Elevation was the first training course that had all three of us together. We called ourselves the Three Musketeers. We did some
Entity establishment.
it,
Entity
yeah,
establishment.
what did I call it?
Entity elevation. That's the next version.
Oh yeah, well what happened? Actually, that's a great segue. We did entity establishment. I remember buying the domain and actually putting a GMB that you and I optimized. And then Jimmy would speak, you would speak, and we brought a lot of your stuff. And you had your gigantic 5,000 slide show presentation that lasted like a year and a half, and you kept growing. And it was really about entities. And then later, when that course finally closed, Daryl went off in his own direction to create Entity Elevation, which has many, many students around the world, which then became a part of Surge, Local Surge. Then there's Advanced Surge. These are all very advanced systems. I incorporate some of these ideas. We have a lot of each other's ideas and different things. We go as far back as Network Empire, where I had the 5 A-frame punch early on, was one of my early influences. And a lot of the stuff, I think, Daryl, you still use iframes today in some of your surge methods. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's so powerful. So I just want everybody to know, like, as you get older, I'm not going to say how old I am, but as you get older, you have people that have been around you for a long, long time. Where it's like, okay, this is going to last. And I'm going to tell you guys something. Daryl is a true, like Jimmy, Daryl is a true. He's in it for the hardcore SEO entity and the technical side of entity optimization, and it's all about results and ranking. And there's a lot of SEOs out there that it's not really about the love of the game. Okay, and Daryl's the real thing with that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And part of the reason I got him on is since he's an authority in my life in certain areas, in the same way Jimmy is an authority in my life in others. I do hang out with some of the best SEOs in the world. Daryl is definitely in the top three. So that's I'm saying that. Okay, I've kind of I'm not saying that because of anything other than I need you guys to understand the distinction between technically accurate information and a lot of the other stuff that's out there. I don't want to tear anybody down, but just it takes time, guys. I'm a 23-year vet of the SEO industry. Okay, so I know the distinction. So what I brought Daryl on today to talk about is I want to start training all of you about mixed martial arts SEO. And the reason that I think Kaylin thought of that idea, my wife, who's actually becoming a pretty cool SEO in of her own right, with content creation and stuff I've talked to you, Daryl, about information gain, perplexity, information entropy, all this information theory. Kaylin and I have gotten into a lot of information theory to look. The reason we've done it is to look backwards on the search engines, Daryl. Like before we had entities, right? And then when it was just back, you could rank in like with a bunch of backlinks and you could do different things. And then entities came out with the knowledge bases, Wikipedia, Freebase, all these other things, and they became the anchor points to train the model for machine learning. And then here we are today, where the child, as Jason Bernard says from Cube, another friend, very wonderful man, is talking about how Google the child is becoming a Google the adolescent and might even come into adulthood where if it doesn't go the direction of retrieval augmented search, it'll go into being able to answer you directly. So these are topics I'd love to discuss with you, if not all today, Daryl. But the main thing to pull you on today is talk about local, because you do local in your sleep, pretty much. And some of our students are real beginners. They're working with some of our business in the box systems and other things. Here's the question we get, and I want them to think like mixed martial arts, whether they're listening to Jimmy, they're listening to Jason from Cube, or they're listening to Corey Goober from Topical SEO. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, guys, the
I'm
joke.
not gonna say a word.
Guys, no, the joke there, guys, is that Corey, who's amazing, like I've learned so much from him, and I've taken his training, and you know, even Corey is like, you know, all that topical stuff that's coming out now. It's like he taught a lot of people to create entity-based, what Daryl calls entity pollution. I don't think he intended on doing that. And by the way, Corey, if you're watching that, I still love your stuff. It can be all modified to, you know, you've already adapted. I'm aware of that. So Corey is the real deal also. But the thing is that things change so fast. If you teach something out there and a lot of people do it, like Daryl, you know, this last bloodbath, which was all this AI generated content. I'd love you to weigh in on that because you know you got people like you know entire sites who are doing autogen AI just completely deleted it, and the red warning they give you in the Google Search Console looks exactly like our auto blogging warnings we got in 2008. It says you have, I can't remember what it said, but it was something like you have heinous crimes against Google. Like it was like, you know. So I want you to weigh in on that, and then the final thing I want to get away with, if I can, to rack your brain, is people are asking if you're at a coffee shop and you're sitting with them and they're like, Daryl, okay, I just paid you my consulting fee, and please tell me what I should never not do on a Google business profile to optimize it. Like, in other words, what could I do if I forgot it would be so bad that you'd have to close, you know, put down your coffee and get the laptop and fix it right now? Like, in other words, what are the 3 to 5 items that you just really never leave or don't do? So I don't know where you want to start on those 3 topics, but that's kind of where I'm going.
Maybe the last one's the easiest one.
Okay.
So Google My Business, Google Business Profile. Um, yeah, I call it Google My Business still because being many years ago a forex trader, GBP is forever cemented in my mind as Great British Pound. So I just can't get my mind
Oh,
around calling it
right.
GBP.
That is amazing, actually. I never even
Drives
thought
me
about it.
crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's kind of funny that way, but
Yeah, fair enough.
uh, yeah, I mean, starting from starting from simple optimization points. Um, our current SOP kind of follows this framework. Um, you want these top optimization points done correctly. So title, category, service, product, service area. And then if you take that to a second level, there are other things that you can do with the listing and external to the listing, which will which will start to improve the authoritativeness and the trust that Google assigns to that listing. Um, Good example is some of the things when you're inside of the listing, Google will suggest things that they want you to do in terms of your optimization, the health score. You see that little circle, is it
Yes.
red or is
Yes.
it green, all that sort
Hmm.
of thing. So there's certain things that, excuse me, are easy wins. Um, Couple of the very easy wins are things like fully populating and enabling the chat function, question and answer. There's the function where you can semi-automate that within Google Business Profile. That's helpful from a user experience standpoint. And anytime that you can improve the user experience within a Google property, you tend to get better results. There's some other things attached to that, but
Okay.
the other things such as like using Google Cloud Console even to create some of the types of maps that they recommend that you add to your website, which
Interesting.
support the maps listing.
Yeah, you showed me
So here's
that. I'd
some
never seen that
suggestions.
before.
Yeah, like there's 3 specific maps which I recommend that you consider creating. This is after you've done the baseline optimizations, but there's like a local things to do type of map. There's a um, direction map. There's a pin map showing the location,
Hmm.
and these are all very easily generated through your Google Cloud account. And they give you an embed code. You just put it on the website. Typically, it's like an About Us page or a location page for
Hmm.
that GPP
Hmm.
if you have multi locations. All of those assist in raising the authority and the trust factors that play into ranking.
Interesting.
Um, that's kind of my quick rundown list. It's not the
Perfect.
exhaustive list,
No,
but
that's
yeah.
okay. And we're gonna, guys, we're gonna put this below as an optimization point. You guys have heard optimization points from Jimmy Kelley as well in different groups. We know we have people coming in from all different groups and teachers around the world right now. So one of the things I see myself as not teaching our community the correct way to do it, but saying, hey, these are the things that the people that I trust say about this. And then you can take the information from different locations and decide what's appropriate. Now, here are some big elephants in the room that we either want to murder or address. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and let Daryl do these for you now. Jared, here's the most common questions. I have a Google business profile and I put the local geo modifier in it, and then I started ranking for the keyword plus geo, which my client really wants, even though that's not their entity. Okay, and here's the contradiction they're facing. So you can help me address the contradictions. Okay. Well, somebody from this group over here said, don't put the location in it and don't keyword stuff your title. But they were saying that because they want you to optimize the website properly based on the entity. For example, somebody might say, you know, they want the teacher that I'm working with, maybe for brand signals, for example, or something like that. I don't want, Jimmy says, don't put the entity in the title, which I agree with. You've actually expressed you agree with. And especially if you're going to start trying to rank the website and the entity at the same time. But I don't. But I want to put the local modifier in the title because I don't care about the website. All I'm selling is maps. Like these are the kind of problems that I get. So I'd like you to address what do you do when a client comes to you with just maps and they have a local thing? Do you modify the title or do you stay true to like not? Because I know you invented the term entity pollution. Like just so everybody knows, because I'm going to put it down. That's a Daryl Osborneism. Okay, and it's a real thing. It's a very, very important term. Entity pollution. I'm going to teach you guys what that is. We'll have Daryl teach on it. It's really, really important not to do it. So that's my question to you. I'm facing like in the field, Daryl, like sales, right? Like people are like, oh, I can throw it over the fence. I can put in this software or that software, but I don't care about the website. I only care about local. Some of my students have this. They got like 20 clients, and they're all not just entity, which is the title, geo, but like dentist colon Beverly Hills colon dash, just teeth whitening, implants, it's all in there in that title. So can you speak to that? And by the way, they did get the client ranked for a couple of those, and they tend to only get phone calls for like in teeth whitening or something like that. So what can you say about that to give people a perspective on how to choose the best information, how to decide how to service the client? What are the thoughts that you need to watch out for depending upon how you're selling it? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I would say if it's a situation where it's just strictly get me phone calls I don't care about, don't ever touch my website,
Yeah,
then I'd be more willing to do some of that stuffing in the title because I
exactly.
know it's going to be a quick win.
Correct.
And they don't care about what's going to happen to their brand slash entity long term. And that's the
Exactly.
problem
Exactly.
with inserting those terms into the title.
Yes.
Long term, what you're doing is you're skewing your association with the brand and the category in such a way that you're pigeonholing yourself into a particular zone. You're drawing a circle around your brand, and you're preventing yourself from fully realizing the entire scope of how you can rank for one or multiple categories. So we used to, in the past, as you know, we used to do all sorts of things. We used to do brand dash entity, like all this stuff.
Yeah, we get as many
And
entities we could. Yeah, I remember back in the
and
day.
that still works. It still works. The problem is, how does Google see you? How does Google associate that brand name? Like, if you're going to now portray that your official designation, and this is irrespective of anything you might run into with when you're trying to do verifications for your ads account, things like that. You got to prove, okay, is this actually your name? Give us a
Right.
DBA document, and we'll
Yes,
suspend your
yes.
account. The
Such a good point.
verifications are happening more and more now. There's
Such a
also
good
a
point.
correlation between your Google business profile and local services ads. Local services ads, if your name does not match what you've provided to them
Yes.
for your verification procedure, um, you can get away with it, but what'll happen is that your reviews will not come over from the Google Business Profile. So you're going to have that disparity. So there's those types of issues. But
Here's an
um,
example. Hey, Daryl, I'm just going to put this over our faces real quick for a
yeah,
second.
yeah,
Here's an
sure.
example of exactly what Daryl was just talking about. On the screen, you can see it. Dr. Sean Sadie. It used to be Dr. Sean Sadie, plastic surgeon, or something else like that. As soon as we set him up for service ads, like Daryl's just saying, which I don't see any on the screen because I'm not close enough to him, but service ads is a paid thing. What the Google support team said is, no, we got to change your title back. They immediately changed the title back
Yeah, yeah,
to
most
to
definitely.
just his name, which is his entity. Continue.
So when we look at the overall long game here, we're trying to build up and establish the entity as an authority not only in its own right for its own definition of what that brand actually is, but as Google understands it for the things that we are supposedly subject matter experts in. Uh, what we do now is we most of the time with those caveats depending on what the client's goals are, but most of the time it's brand only on the GBP title. Um, where we handle some of the other variants is on the website, but in terms of more location pages, category pages that mirror the GBP categories,
Yes.
um, and using the specific types of maps. So the three maps that I just described that are originated from Google Cloud that create a reciprocal relationship between the website inner page for the location back to the Google business profile. So what you used to be able to achieve in the title and get away with for a long period of time now is iterated in a better way with a relationship now between the website page, the Google business profile, and the intermediary, which is the map connecting the two together. And it's
Wow.
all contextual end to end, both ways.
Yes.
It's a reciprocity. Uh, Taking that to one more level, we also integrate schema markup on those inner pages, which then pull in all of the other data. So, you've got the URL of the Google business profile. You've got all these things where you're telling Google we're same as this, same as that, but it's all part of the same entity. And
Yes.
what happens when you do that correctly is because you haven't polluted your GMB title and it matches your entity on the website, now everything's synonymous, and
Yes.
Google loves the consistency.
So I
Does
want
that make
to.
sense?
It does, and I want to address an elephant in the room because a lot of the guys watching, they've got mixed martial arts instructors from taekwondo to jujitsu to aikido to like so. Whether it's you, Jimmy, myself, Jason from Kali Kiva, got people in my members area from everybody. So I want to address schema. And we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. I want you to understand, like you're watching, you're sitting next to a surgeon right now. Daryl is a surgeon. So if you haven't been trained by him and you don't have a surgeon watching, you're making your first cut. What I would say with schema is, and I'm not trying to strike fear into the hearts of men here. I'm just saying that make sure you, because entity pollution is real, and because schema does have a underlying effect, and it is there, make sure that you know what you're doing. When in doubt, don't do it until you ask a surgeon. Okay? And there's all kinds of stuff you can do, training and these other things. The other thing I want to say is some of you have come to me and said, well, Jason from Polycube says, well, he's not wrong either. He actually, I had a conversation with him. He's concerned about the same thing, and noticed that people don't, not everybody can do what Daryl can do unless they've been trained or certified by him. So the main thing, and same with Jason. So one of the things Jason said, well, I just keep it simple and keep everything on the about page because I don't want any of these guys touching, like messing around with big schema things. So one of the things I would say, it doesn't have to be difficult. I'm not trying to like I said, strike the fear of God into people, but some of you have heard Jimmy say, hey, Jimmy Kelley say, I don't deal in schema, but there's definitely a time to use it, and it definitely has power when done the right way. So we just want, what Daryl and I want you to have is a clear understanding of there's caveats. You got to know what you're doing. You can't just, haphazardly stick schema up randomly without oversight and especially as a beginner, I would just make sure that you understand that.
So yeah, and there's many examples of where schema has either not worked at all or it's been very detrimental
Yeah, give us
to
an example.
to
So we have real world examples. Like, give us fun stories.
um oh yeah, I mean
I have some
well a
too.
good here's a very easy example
Mhm.
and um some of the first implementations of plugin based schema were very terrible and
Yes. Oh my
you know
gosh. What was
like
that one you
like
were?
like Yoast, there were many
Yes.
situations where you would just have schema throughout the entire site, just for the sake of, well, I guess we need it. Let's just implement it. But there was a lot of junk and there was a lot of incorrect information. And what it was actually doing was causing instabilities and defocusing the the purpose of that particular page for for things like Google's precise understanding of what you were trying to rank for. So it's almost like going to the eye doctor and you're sitting there getting those lenses. Like, is this clear? Is that clear? One, two,
Yeah,
two, like that
right.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you finally have the right combination. It's like, oh, let's put schema on, and then all of a sudden everything's blurry again. So Google's like, oh, I had a good idea what you're doing. Now I don't understand shit because you've
Yes.
just
Yep.
muddied the water.
Exactly. And to it would be fun to have Jason and Bernard in the room with you as well, with Jimmy and myself when we're talking, because it's really interesting because he said something very similar. For the beginner or easy metaphor is that when Google, if your website's been around for a while, Google understands what you are. And like Daryl just said, like if the child or the adolescent that is Google is certain, and you try to make it more certain with schema, a lot of the times you'll just make it less certain. It'll get confused again if you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest errors with beginner schema is a lot of stuffing in things like same as. Oh, let's put all our social properties in. Let's put all these other things that like I bought 50 citations and I'm going to stuff those in. But everything, and this is where I teach specifically that with schema, you have to understand precisely that it is a focusing mechanism and you need to know exactly each individual piece that you are now going to shine a light on and bring more attention to has to have precision. So if you're going to insert things inside schema that you are not 100% clear on whether those sources have been vetted, and keep in mind every external source has links to it, and it can be its own entity, which can either help or hurt you if you're introducing things that look okay on the surface, and it can be even as insipid as uh, let's say uh, uh, let's say you have a very good quality backlink from a niche relevant site. It has traffic. It's very relevant to your entity, but it's on shared hosting with three other porn sites.
Yeah, exactly.
That's entity pollution that you might not discover for a very long time.
Yes. And not only
So you
that,
must
they're sorry, go ahead, Daryl.
stuff like that, right?
Yeah, there may not, like with something like that, you may not even know directly. In fact, there may not be a direct correlation. It may be at the CDN. It might be related to the CDN network or even the block of the C block that is
Yeah,
on. So that's interesting. So you consider C block able to host entity pollution without being in the second or the first layer web.
I believe so.
Wow,
Yes,
that's really never
I
thought about
believe so.
that. And,
Yes.
well, no,
Yeah.
you kind of know what you're talking about. So interesting. I never really
Well,
thought about that.
having an IT background helps when you're looking
Huge,
at certain
guys.
things like that. But
Yeah, one thing, I often joke around about Jimmy being the John Nash of decryption because I've seen him like decrypt multiple layers. So I consider him like because I was in the Navy with decryption functions where I hung out with
yes,
cryptologists and electronic warfare technicians, which I was. So we're watching signals coming in all the time. So that's kind of where my stuff stops. I wasn't the guy who opened the Slick 32 that watched signals and worked on them. Daryl is the guy with rebooting the servers and systems. Like Daryl has an IT background, which is you got to be pretty well, in my opinion, is you got to be pretty pedantic and rigorous, or at least more rigorous than marketers and more rigorous than, um, it takes all types of people in this industry. So that's really interesting. Okay, well, I think we've kind of answered that. And I know you don't have a lot of time. Do you want to wrap this up, or can I ask one more question about entities?
You can ask one more question for sure. There's one other thing I want to
Hmm.
just mention, and of course, this topic, as you said, is almost endless. But uh, going back to the point about entity pollution and optimizing your GBP versus the relationship between the website. Um, One thing you need to be very, very careful of, and it's something that I have seen rise in importance over
Interesting.
the last couple of years with each successive update even. And it's one of the things that is the most common problem that I think
Okay.
I've seen in every case, and that
Okay.
is situations where you have keyword cannibalization.
Okay. So let's
So
talk about what that means for both the intermediate.
keyword, yeah, so that is in its simplistic form, it is when you have more than one web page
Hmm.
competing for or ranking for the same keyword. And
Yes.
Google is fighting to determine which of those two or more pages should be showing in search. Often, what happens is it will penalize all of them,
Yep.
and you'll be languishing on page two or more. You'll see that in your keyword tracker, where if the keyword tracker is able to tell you which URL it found, you'll see, you know, XYZ keyword, homepage, inner page. Usually it's homepage, inner page, that combination.
Yes. Yes.
So
And
where that hurts you
mhm.
with your Google business profile is if you are trying to achieve a particular geo ranking and your inner page for that location is competing with your homepage,
Yes.
typically you will have poor maps rankings as a result.
Exactly. And for those of you in our community who have worked with Jimmy on the Sioma training, Jimmy and I did the Sioma Mastermind training last year, and you've
Right.
taken that. This is where Daryl's Aikido and Ninjutsu matches Jimmy's Aikido and Karate and Taekwondo. I mean, it's the same perspective, almost identical. And everybody has their own style and their own differences, but this is a place where we all overlap. We've all seen it. So this is why Jimmy is saying you with entity optimization and the rule set that he provides to not violate. There's multiple structures now. There's 3 structures, including a nested structure that we just rolled out. That is still of paramount importance to not be cannibalizing. And that also holds true when he's talking about things in his technology like brand signals or other technologies with Jason Bernard has talked about. You don't want to have these dupe contents. Another thing that I thought was kind of weird, Daryl, I don't know if you noticed this, but there used to be a filter you could use in Google called and filter equals 0 to see what is
Mm-hmm,
in the filter. That has been
mm-hmm.
surprisingly quiet. I'm wondering if they're deprecating it because I've been finding less and less things in the filter and more things just gone. That might be just a function of what we call panda penalty, which is this keyword cannibalization function. But what I want to bring to everybody's attention in this community, because so many people from so many walks of life and different teachers, I'm finding this people are universally understanding it. Okay, that this is bad.
Yeah.
So don't have
I
pages.
think I think that's part of it. I think there's also more de-indexation that's happened, just a more of a cleanup, trying to
Massive,
be more efficient with crawl budget, all that
massive,
sort of thing.
massive.
The information retrieval concept as well, right?
Yes.
Just trying to be
Cost
more
of
efficient
retrieval.
as a machine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cost of retrieval
So
has
I
gone
think
up.
all of that's in play.
Let's talk about
Yes.
this real quickly. And I know you got a family coming up here that you need to interact with, but um, the cost of retrieval. I got a call from a black hat SEO. Both you and I know him. I'll leave his name off here. He's awesome. Shout out. Um, they're finding out that hundreds of millions of their pages have been removed. Okay, they're publishing a million pages a day on average, and structured fairly well with not a lot of panda. And they're gone. Like there was a little like in their little black hat groups and forums, they were just like, okay, this is genocide of all black hat. Back in the day when we were doing 301 redirects, and remember playing around with like cloaking and all that stuff. Like that stuff is like way on its way out. And some of those guys have, and it's been out for a while, but the only reason I bring it up is some of these guys are really really good at looking at large scale big data sets, which I know you are too, but they have that data. because they're indexing thousands of pages a day. When I say they're submitting, when I say they're indexing a million pages a day, I'm saying they're publishing. I'm not saying it's getting indexed because obviously crawl rates slowed down
Hmm.
massively. So
Hmm.
I find that interesting. And if you think about it, cost of retrieval, with what I wanted to ask you about is with AI coming out and the recent purchase of Reddit and all of my training on answer engines, because I knew where this was going. We could see the writing on the wall. That's why I teach people Quora and Reddit and all these different things. The acquisition of Reddit, which I predicted a year ago, so that answer engines, because people, even Bill Gates has a profile on Reddit, bearing his soul on Reddit, and he doesn't publish on Google, So I'm looking at all this AI stuff. Do you feel that the mass exodus from Google, which I think it's the thing I want to toss out to you, Daryl, is that as soon as OpenAI had a corporate acquisition and merger with, it's not a full merger, but when they were funded by Microsoft, and when they got that deal, Google's market cap acquisition, that means their valuation dropped $100 billion overnight. And what I find interesting is none of the news channels covered this. This was just a quiet little thing like, oh, and then to make matters worse, when Apprentice Bard came out, which is that site I showed you I'm ranked for, number 5 on, actually number 3 for Apprentice Bard, it's our site, test site. Um, they lost. That's a lot of money, Daryl. Like 100 billion. Like, and of course, to me, when somebody is in that much fear, because that's like, you remember the Holy Bible is the it's the shareholder investor capital of America, and the one true word of God is stock value, right? Stock valuation. Like that's what America is. So when you get hit that hard, and you've been the 1,000 pound gorilla, always sitting at the king of Crap Hill, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then, of course, they launch Apprentice Bard and all these other models, which are, you know, uh, conversational. Do you think there is a question in here? Do you think that they're losing market share and a lot of their reactions and a lot of their paralysis, like with SGE and their all AI search, is a result of losing market share and market cap, and that they're kind of frozen or paralyzed? Do you think that? How do you see Google moving forward with this and Bing all of a sudden uptaking? For example, Daryl, when we got a GBP Google Business Profile suspended from one of our clients, all we had to do was go over to Bing, Places, connect it, have a postcard sent to them there, and it immediately gave the Google Business Profile a brand spanking shiny new CID in 3 hours on the same 3 feet of property. And we didn't do anything with Google. Similarly, can I give you another thing? We had one of our giant clients with a 90,000 page website for e-commerce, okay, have 10,000 pages de-indexed over the course of a week. I went over to Bing, I submitted their site to Bing,
Oh my
and
God.
and overnight, those 10,000, half of those 10,000 pages were back on Google. So my question to you is this: do you think there is becoming one search engine, and do you think there's an oligarchy that's running all this? And where do you think this is going to go in terms of entities in the next 5 years? And we'll wrap up with that.
Uh, yes, I think so. I think it is going that way. I think it's interesting with the emergence of OpenAI and the Chat GPT situation. Um, I think it goes into, and I'm gonna answer this. I got to do it in a bit of a roundabout though. Um, I think that Google really dropped the ball on understanding what the user is truly seeking as an experience.
Hmm.
They know where to get the answer, but it's the experience and the journey that ChatGPT opened a real can of worms because it's satisfying that hunger that users clearly wanted something to really satisfy the way they want to not only speak to, um, um, make their um, got to describe this so it's going to be super clear. Um,
A
it
resolution?
goes down. It goes down to know how a lot of us learn. There's the auditory, the kinesthetic, the visual.
Dialectics.
I think OpenAI satisfy that on a different level
Yes.
that really Google wasn't doing a good job of. Um, it also plays into, I mean, you've heard me teach on my on my methodology regarding the MERV concept, which is a fancy um, it's a fancy acronym, multi entity relational vector. Basically, it is all modalities of a search query,
Hmm.
all of the different ways that you can saturate content consumption around a topic. And the better job that you do to saturate and provide all of the different modalities that Google is searching
Yes.
to really define a topic,
Hmm.
that's one of the main things that powers the surge method is we fully engulf those search results with multiple forms of content. So updates cease to really matter.
It
You know, at that
exactly.
point, what'll happen is if and Google will show its hand all of the time. If you do a particular search, you'll see the top types of content that are preferred at that point in time with the current algorithm. If something changes, it doesn't matter because you've got 10 other versions of that same content
Well, a
to
hundred
satisfy
percent,
that query.
100%. That brings us back to information gain that Kaylin and I
Yes,
are teaching. Information gain patent that Google has. The information gain score was based on the ability to predict and sameness and lack of novelty,
yes,
which is also lack of wisdom and insight, depending upon your scale. And if everything's the same in data, that's called information entropy. So everything being the same is low entropy, but newness, same in neuroscience, which is called dopamine prediction error. Guys, we're geeking out because we're wrapping this up, and Daryl and I can't help it. Dopamine prediction error is how human beings determine whether something is novel to be seeking it out. It's what gets us out of the cave hunting the woolly mammoth. It's the thing that's like novel, things that you need, but at the same time, it's unique. So, for example, intermittent reward is how a slot machine works. When a slot machine gives you loss, 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 win, that spike of dopamine is extremely important. That would be called that would be a high information. That would be high entropy, which means that it's very unique or very surprise. They actually call it surprise in information theory, just like they call it novelty. And what this means is that if you were to win every time, like that Twilight Zone, where the guy dies and he thinks he's in heaven, and he goes into the casino, and every slot machine he has is a win, and he's like, and for the first 2 days, he's really super excited, and he goes up the concierge, and this he believes he's in heaven. He's go, hey, could you do me a favor? I just want you to make a few of these things lose, because I've won like millions of dollars. Like there's nothing left for me to do here. I mean, he said, this is so amazing what heaven's like, but and the concierge turns to him and says, what makes you think this is heaven? So
yeah,
my point here is that surprise, intermittent reward in the neuroscience is what actually drives somebody forward. If they were to win all the time, it becomes boredom. If they were to lose all the time, they become frustrated. So I wanted to address what you just said, Daryl, as we wrap up. There's actually a name for it, what you're describing. It's called information foraging. And it's a book that I highly recommend that everybody read because it talks about information gain. And when you start reading the Google patents, because I know everybody watching our podcast is going to read the patents, and everybody reads the Google patents. I told my wife to read the information gain score patent this morning, and she just looked at me and rolled her eyes. And she said, "No, you read it."
no, you read it. And you're like, well, I will.
And I said, like, well, fine, I will read it. And then and what happens is we'll read it, we'll talk about it. She's like, you can read it, but I'm going to parse it and summarize it with ChatGPT, which is kind of the point. So I would like to talk more about this some other time, but where we're heading, guys, what Daryl is just describing, he just nailed it on the head. And I want to add something to what he said, is that Google can't get out of the 10 blue links because their entire ads that they frame around it is their shareholder income. That is, in shareholder capitalism, you got to keep the shareholders happy rather. And if you don't get paid, so I think the frozen 10 blue links has been this amazing ride for Google, and I think it will continue. I'm not trying to scare anybody here. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. What I do think, and I thought of that at first, what I do think is going to happen is retrieval augmented search, just like Perplexity is going to use these 10 blue links from multiple search engines, parse them so that they're retrieval augmented, and then the human in the loop will then choose based on information foraging what they want. And by the way, the conversational AI can have a conversation about everything. And based on your clicks, votes, and choices on information gain, an entirely new database is going to be erected, which Perplexity, or Avenge from Perplexity, just got 500 mil from Jeff Bezos. So they're doing good. So obviously, Jeff's not a dumb man. So his investment in retrieval augmented search is something to watch. And guess what, guys? Kaylin, myself, other people that I know, and Daryl is already into entities, which is directly related to the establishment of multiple what you call static entities are the training models for all these retrieval augmented search databases. And I've been talking to Daryl off and on about this. So we're going to plunge forward in the future, keep running your business, and look at our other agency courses. Just know I wanted to introduce you to Daryl. And these, I've been dying to ask him about Google Business Profiles, like what's a make or break it for him, because he just ranks these things, guys. And honestly, the man doesn't need any software tools really to do it if he doesn't want to. he just whips out his feather method and creates his surge and boom. Okay, but he's got a huge amount of discipline to learn all these things. So anything you want to add in closing?
Thank you, Russ. You're too kind. Um, yeah, I mean, I want to make sure I actually answered your question. I agree. I agree with you. I think things are most definitely moving towards that direction. I think that where you're going to see where you're really going to see acceleration now, and especially if you want to be more successful with your own entity development and just providing that authoritativeness. It's really it really comes down to a lot of authority, trust, but also there's a special confluence of data and understanding and really a reward that happens when the AIs are provided with the information that really illustrate beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are the best choice for that
Mm-hmm.
particular query.
Yes.
And all the different things we do lay that pathway to assist in that determination. Because at the end of the day, even with schema, you know, the goal of all this is to, if you're looking at the AI as a decision matrix, the goal is to remove as many of those variables as possible so that the decision lands in your favor rather than, and schema is one of those methods by which we focus that data to force the AI to make better decisions about you, your brand, your entity, your expertise, everything else. So
Exactly. And we view schema as
yeah,
a form of another form of information gain. Once you really
yes,
understand that it's a subset, and it's a way to connect the graph in a way that allows for information gain. And if you look at retrieval augmented generation, where you have multiple choices with multiple citations, which by the way, Google was supposed to be in the beginning, they just got caught up with PageRank.
yeah,
Because PageRank made sense. It was easy. You could flip to
yeah,
it. You could have a query vote. Um, you know, it's interesting because guys, AI can read schema. I've already tested that. It's just code.
oh
So,
yeah.
so these are the things to watch, and we're going to continue. I know that you guys have voted. We'll have Daryl back to talk about things. What I really want, guys, is that we need to stay on team human. Just forget SEO for a second, okay? I want to close with this. A lot of the guys are just running the business to feed their family. They're trying to make an extra 5K, 10K a month, and we're helping some of you guys do that. Daryl's helped countless people. Jimmy Kelley has helped tons of people make more money. I want to take all of these authorities and these mixed martial arts SEO masters and digital marketers, put them in one place, and when you guys have a safe place to go and talk about AI. Daryl has a background in tech, so you have questions on that, we can start talking about it because nobody knows as much as all of us knows. Okay,
Hmm.
we're a world that's dealt in secrets. The military industrial establishment deals in secrets. I'm an ex-intelligence, petty officer in the United States Navy in the 90s. I have a background in that. So, but with AI, we'll find out whether it's a genie in the lamp or some kind of Sith or some kind of demon. We'll find out what it
Hmm.
is, and I think it is what we make of it. And
Hmm.
I think all of us together, even out not search retrieval, uh, answer engines, these are all part of a certain subset of AI. That's the I call it the pre AI models. Remember, all of our queries, all of our clicks, all of our traffic, both fake and real, everything that we've done for the last 20 years. Daryl's been 23 for me. I don't know how long you've been in it. All of it has trained this
Oh,
model.
yeah.
You're not old. Stop it. All of us have trained this model. We've trained this model, which is now going to be used as AI. So we have to be careful and we have to work together. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, and Daryl, I know you'll vouch for this. I can even speak for you on this one. It's the humans who are your clients. It's humans who buy stuff. Maybe robots will buy stuff. You can give your AI a credit card in the future, I'm sure. But right now, stay on Team Human. Remember to service your clients as best you can, and results are what matters. So whichever method you're using, we're here to help you inside Super-Intelligent AI. I want you to know all the great organizations like Entity Elevation. Oh, when is your live training?
Well, we're having our first live event up in Kelowna, British Columbia,
Hmm.
June 10th and 11th. It's gonna be
Okay.
awesome.
Good.
It's gonna be very different. We're focusing on actionable, very concrete information that you can take away and implement rather than the regular, very common situation where you're just overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. But the topics as well are going to be very different than what you might be used to. So I think it's gonna be cool.
I'm very, very excited to hear more about that and invite anybody wherever they are. In Canada is convenient. United States, you can always go up, and I want to. There's still room for people to attend that, right?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of registrations, but
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
Oh, I'm glad you're filling up. That's amazing. And just for the record,
Yeah,
since this podcast is probably going out, maybe onto YouTube, or we'll have to see. The date today is May 9th, 2024.
yeah.
So if you're seeing it past the June 10 date, that's probably already completed. But definitely, you guys want to watch more of Daryl's stuff, and we're gonna kidnap him. Kayla and I have threatened to go up to Canada and camp out in our rig, which I'm in right now, on his land
Well,
when
the
he gets.
event,
Mhm.
you definitely will be doing that. The event is the only place I'm ever going to teach my proprietary whisper method, which is the way I do my CTR campaigns.
Yes.
Uh, it's very successful with local. I mean, you've experienced it yourself, Russ. Um, that's
Never
going to be
heard
the
about
one
it.
and only
I
time
have
I do
no idea what you're talking about.
it.
There, let me just put it this way, and again, this goes back into the topic of secrecy, confidence, and everything. There are things that Daryl has. There are things that Jimmy and I have. There are things that we're talking technologies and methods that they deserve to remain confidential and black box. Okay, there's a lot of things in this trade like any other. We are in information. It's a form of cryptology, guys. When you're decrypting, again, I hung out with cryptologists. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but these are the guys that cipher. They have ciphers and they decipher crypts and codes. Like, for Alan Turing, I consider Jimmy to be like a decryption code. I consider um, Daryl to be this great connected data layer person. Like Daryl knows how all these layers, and he can see things that we can't. So there's just obviously we can't talk about everything. Proprietary stuff still is out there, and we want you guys to understand that. Otherwise, if everything was all out there on the free for YouTube, there would be like it wouldn't last because SEOs ruin everything. So,
Mm.
and one of the things I found, one of the things I learned, that the best trick that I learned from Daryl is make it complex and deep and real enough that those who are lazy and who don't really want to learn how something works will never make it past the first 35 minutes. Like it's just not gonna make it.
35 minutes.
So that by the way, I prize that. Okay, because why? Because that's information gain. That's high entropy, which by the way, high entropy is a positive thing in information theory. It's a very important thing because it means you have to actually learn something. Okay, you're not going to just point something and have it work. If you want to do that, just do paid advertising, which we also teach in our training. Which for some people it's better. You just want to throw it over the fence to Daryl. You want to throw it over the fence to me and Jimmy. You want to throw it over the fence. That's good. So thank you so much, my friend. I can't wait to talk to you more. And
Thank you. This was fun.
we're going to get you on the hot seat. For everyone listening, I'm going to go ahead and transcribe this, especially the list of Daryl's most you better do this for Google Business Profiles, and it's coming from an authority. I've handed him plenty of Google Business Profiles that I needed to pop because they just weren't working properly, and he's helped me out. So that'll be awesome.
Sure.
Daryl, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on
Thanks,
the
Ross.
inside. And,
Awesome.
and anybody has any questions about his training coming up, just reach out. I'll give you all the deets. Thank you.
Thank you very much.